Hey guys, it's Enrique from Novation here at Full Compass to show you a few of the basic controls and features of the Circuit Mono Station. Focusing on the bottom half of this box, you have a scales mode button. In here you can choose from 16 different scales as well as chromatic, depending on how you want to play your synth. You have controls for oscillator 1, oscillator 2, which then changes the keyboard over depending on which oscillator you want to play. Right here you have the mod sequencer. In the mod sequencer, you can say on this step of the 16 steps, I want to set different values to then send somewhere else in the mod matrix. You have your octave up and octave down buttons. They'll be purple if you're editing oscillator 1 and green if you're editing oscillator 2. A clear and a duplicate button, which ends up being one of my favorite buttons on the Circuit Mono Station. Clear, you can easily clear out a sequence, or if you want and you have a few notes already programmed in, you hold down Shift, you hit duplicate, and you can place that note elsewhere. You can also duplicate patterns and different recorded automation as well. Next you have a save button, and the save button is tied in with the sessions button. In the sessions you have 32 different sessions that you can save. In the session you'll have different synth patch parameters, as well as different pattern information and different synth information within each session. All the sessions will then wait until the end of the bar to change to the next session, allowing you to play through different patches and songs and still stay in time or in tempo with everything else in your studio. The shift button, which allows you to access a lot of the different shift features here on the face, for example the duplicate button. You can also transpose the pattern up or down an octave, smoothing out the mod sequence, syncing oscillator 2 to oscillator 1, as well as the key tracking for the filter, paraphonic mode, expand mode, giving you 4 different octaves to play, fixed mode, which will be a fixed velocity mode of 120, the glide mode, which allows you to set different glide values per step in the sequencer, and the mutate button. The mutate button will take a sequence that you have programmed. For example, if we program in a simple one right now, press record, press play. You can hear those notes, but as soon as I hit mutate, it will take those notes, flip them over, and create a new random sequence based on the information you gave it. So we have this sequence. If I hit mutate, maybe one more. And where this is really cool is, say I do like that sequence. If we go into the pattern section, in patterns you have 16 different patterns that you can save for oscillator 1, 8 for oscillator 2, and 8 for the mod sequence. You're not just stuck to a 16-step sequence or a single bar. If I press the first pattern, press the 8 pattern, you can see that they all light up. Oscillator 2 is now playing between pattern 1 through 8. It ties them all together, giving you a 128-step sequence. Similarly, in oscillator 1, if you hold down the first, press number 16 of the sequence, it'll tie all those together. So you have a 16-bar sequence. All of these can hold their own individual pattern settings as well. So if I hit pattern settings, you'll see it's purple, signifying that I'm in oscillator 1. You have different sync rates. For example, we'll go back to the patterns and only play the very first pattern, which is in pattern settings, you can slow that down to 8ths. Or you can do 30 seconds. You even have reverse mode, different play styles, forward, reverse, ping pong, and random. Here's reverse. We'll put it back to 16ths and do ping pong. And then we even have random. Where this is really unique is that these pattern settings are literally per pattern. So if we go back to the pattern page and I hold down Shift and then hit duplicate, I can duplicate the first pattern to the second one. Now if I hit the second pattern and we go back to pattern settings, we are now looking at the pattern settings for pattern 2. So here we can say play forward at 16ths. So if I hit the first pattern, we still have the very first pattern that we have, which is set to the random play style. So if I were to tie these together, the very first pattern will go through 16 steps of random steps before switching to the second pattern. So I'm going to hit pattern 1 and 2 together. We'll go back to note mode so we can watch it happen. And I'll press play. So you can see how it jumps back and forth between random and then the normal one. And where this is really cool is I can say, let's duplicate pattern 2 to 3, shift, duplicate. And now in pattern 3, I can mutate this one. So I've just created a new sequence based on the note information I already had. And thanks to the scale mode, we're still in the C minor scale. So now I can even tie all 3 of those together by pressing 1 through 3 and hitting play. It's a really fun and quick way to create new sequences based on the idea you already had, but add a little bit of flavor to it. Following the pattern settings button, on the right hand side we have the patches button. And in patches, you have 64 different synth patches that you can save. It also comes preloaded with those in there as well. But with circuit components, you can back up, restore, or change patches, or even share them with your friends using circuit components. If you hit the octave up button, it'll take you to the second page of oscillator patches. So sticking to pattern 3 for oscillator 1, if you hit velocity, you can change the velocity of each individual step. We can focus on this one and lower the velocity. But you might not hear anything unless you have the velocity actually being sent to a different parameter in the mod matrix. So right now, I have it set to the filter. You can hear how that note kind of closes the filter down. If I wanted to, I can even say shift, duplicate, and duplicate that note around the sequence. Or I can then say shift, duplicate, one more right next to it, but make it go up an octave by hitting the note, seeing where it's at, hit octave up, and then take that note away and add it here. The gate button works in similar fashion as well. You hit gate, and you can select the note and see how long the gate is. If I press this, I can say I want it to play for 8 steps. You can hear it holding and sustaining across the other notes being played. But where this is really cool, you even have these micro gates. So this might be a little hard to grasp at first, but it's really unique where you have 6 micro steps between each of the 16 steps. So if I press a step and I hit it a couple times, you can see that it gets dimmer or brighter, signifying what position of the micro steps I'm on. If it's fully bright, that means I'm holding it for a solid step. And if it's as dim as possible, that means it's only going to be for a little pluck. It's a great way to get a lot of dynamic playing out of your synth. So that was an in-depth view of the basic controls and the basic features of the Circuit Mono Station. To learn more, make sure to visit fullcompass.com or contact your Full Compass sales pro.